Ryaka's first memory is standing over the remains of her parents, holding a warm egg slicer. The authorities took her away, but the powerful Niwa family adopted her after noticing something strange. They soon forced her to fight like a weapon, but one day, she gets chosen for the world's greatest underground war where 12 deadly fighters battle to the death, and the last one standing gets their deepest wish granted. However, before any of this, a beautiful lady named Toshiko walks through a city of 500,000 people with 2 badass guns in her hands because the whole population is relocated in a single night, which shows the power of the Zodiac War's organizers. However, the city is not completely empty because other participants have already gone inside the biggest building of the city. Toshiko also enters the building, and as she goes upstairs, she recalls how his father taught her to have an escape route planned when she was getting trained by him. In a flashback, she fights pro-level dummy enemies with everything she'd got following her father's directions. As she fights with the last man, she gets wounded but still manages to overpower him. However, the man begs for him life, prompting her to stop from killing him, but later her father punches her and kills the man with his own hands. He yells that she shouldn't have showed mercy when she had the chance to kill. Meanwhile, her mother always cares for her and her younger sister, Kyoko, who is obsessed with killing. One day, her father returns after winning the Zodiac War and selects the entrant for the next Zodiac War that will be held after 12 years. At present, the girl finally makes it into the main hall where she introduces herself as the Boar of Chinese Zodiac. She notices that other participants have arrived already when suddenly a dead body on the floor catches her attention. Yuzagi points her bloody sword towards her and says that she shouldn't accuse people of murder without any evidence. The referee of the Zodiac War, Duodkupal, introduces himself and tells the participants that there are 12 jewels on the table for the 12 participants. He asks them all to pick one, so Nagayuki asks him if he can take his twin brother Takeyasu's jewel because he is not going to need one, and Duodkupal allows him so that the jewel will stay in their family. Duodkupal tells them to swallow it, and just when they all swallow it, he reveals that this is a slow-acting poison which will kill them after 12 hours. He then explains that these jewels are called the Beast Jewels, and the one who collects all of them will win and be granted one wish of their choosing. Back in the flashback, Toshiko's father selects Kyoko as the next entrant, which makes her super excited. But Toshiko can't handle the insult and decides to steal what belongs to her. Afterward, Kyoko's training starts, and Toshiko starts manipulating her by making her kill others, after which she intentionally gets caught by Kyoko while flirting with her crush in the school. During her daily trainings, Toshiko keeps telling Kyoko that showing mercy is pointless, and she makes her kill more and more people until the point where she kills her crush and other classmates. She tells Kyoko that killing humans is just like killing small animals, and she needs to kill more people if she wants to be strong. Kyoko becomes a psychopath, and she even kills all the servants at their mansion, so her parents lock her inside a cage. Kyoko starts craving for killing more people when Toshiko approaches her and slides a knife into her cage while telling her to kill more. Kyoko then takes her own life, and Toshiko gets the chance to represent the Ino family in the Zodiac War. At present, Ashiai asks Duodkupal that there is no point in winning if they all die in 12 hours, but Duodkupal says that the winner will also receive an antidote as a bonus prize. Upon Datsuku's question, Duodkupal clarifies that some people might live a bit longer than 12 hours, but they will eventually die after some time. Just then, Hitsujai asks him that what will happen if he uses explosives and the jewels blow up with their enemies, so Duodkupal explains that the jewels can never be damaged no matter how powerful weapon someone uses. With this, Duodkupal declares the tournament open and leaves when suddenly Sharyu says that she has a plan to be able to keep everyone alive even if they lose, so everyone gets ready to listen to her except Toshiko, but when the Yuzagi says that he's also ready to listen to her, everyone decides to not get involved, which leaves Sharyu, Yuzagi, and Nezumi as the pacifist alliance. Suddenly, the floor collapses and all participants fall, after which they start running to formulate their strategies. Just then, Sharyu takes Nezumi and jumps off the building to save him from an explosion caused by Hitsujai. Meanwhile, Toshiko stands up thinking that the floor was destroyed on purpose, and she feels the presence of someone nearby. She tells the person to come out like and fight like a warrior. With this, Yuzagi shows up saying that she made him uncomfortable for doubting that he killed Takeyasu. But Toshiko says that it was a parent who killed him. Yuzagi replies that in order to gain his respect he will defeat her. So Toshiko starts firing, thinking that she will suddenly stop firing and eventually pretend that she is out of ammo, but just when Yuzagi will close in to attack her, she will start firing again and finish him off. She follows her plan of firing like crazy and acts like she is out of ammo to lure in Yuzagi when suddenly someone stabs her from behind, leaving her in a state of shock. She turns around only to see Takeyasu standing behind her, so Yuzagi explains that whoever is killed by him turns into his personal zombie. He then tells her that she should forgive him since he is going to turn her into his new friend. On the road, Sharyu worries if others are fine, which sounds strange to Nezumi. She then tells Nezumi that they must find a spot to lay low, so Nezumi points towards a manhole, and they both go inside. There, they formally introduce themselves, after which Shiryu tells Usagi that he looks too young to be a warrior, but he says that different people have different standards of how old someone should be to be called mature. Nezumi says that Shiryu is quite powerful, but she tries to change the topic, so Nezumi reveals that he knows that she is the one who blew up the floor. He adds that when she brought up the alliance idea, someone must have felt threatened, and when they were about to harm others, Shiryu quickly blew up the floor to protect everyone. Meanwhile, Hitsujai sits somewhere in the city and thinks that everyone took advantage of the commotion to find cover, since there are not strict boundaries of the playing area. He remembers that the previous winner went to a densely populated area to win. However, due to the jewels, the participants won't go far from the city. Meanwhile, Tora happens to find a liquor shop, which makes her happy. On the other hand, Datsuku makes it to a parking lot where he thinks that laying low with poison in the stomach is the biggest foolishness, and he's not like others, so he will not do what others are doing. He thinks that over the years he was happy to pretend in front of the world that his special power is the savage dog's vice, but his real power is the poison that comes out of his fangs. This secret of him never came out because whoever got the taste of it didn't survive to tell anybody. He produces the toxins in his own body and then injects it into the enemy, who then experiences side effects like a horrifically violent death. He thinks that he had already figured out that the jewel was actually a poison, so he prepared an antidote in his body. Now he will just wait for others to kill each other, and when there will only 2 or 3 participants will be left, he will come out and take them down. He feels someone's presence, but then he finds out that it's just a bird. However, suddenly Niwatori appears there, which makes him startled. On the other hand, Nezumi asks Shiryu if she knows who was going to attack when the war started, but she replies that she didn't have much time to investigate, so she just focused on escaping. Nezumi argues that he thinks she is capable enough of identifying the person and obliterating them right on the spot. Shiryu agrees with Nezumi, but she says that she doesn't want to use her power like that because there are many ways to exercise great power. Back in the parking lot, Datsuku gets in the attacking position, but Niwatori says that she has no intention of attacking him. Datsuku thinks that she was just about to ambush, but Niwatori introduces herself and says that she was hoping if they could team up. Datsuku recalls that Niwatori agreed to team up with Shiryu as well, and seeing her timid behavior with a flashy outfit, he guesses that maybe she is sent for Zodiac War against her will. Datsuku deduces that he can't afford to get wounded at the start of the match, so he should pretend to team up with Niwatori for now and slay her before they run into anyone else. Niwatori says that they should go now because she is kind of scared by Usagi because he has killed Toshiko, and now he has turned her and Takeyasu into his personal zombies. Datsuku asks how she knows so much, so reveals that she has a unique ability that allows her to communicate with all birds, and she can see everything they see. Datsuku thinks that Niwatori is dumb for revealing her ability to her enemy, but for now Usagi is the real problem because he is a killer who creates more killers. Datsuku thinks that he will eliminate Niwatori once he gets rid of Usagi and his zombies, so he shakes hands with her. As they walk outside the parking lot, Datsuku tells her that he knows about Ashiai, Nagayuki, Takeyasu, Shiryu, and Toshiko. He adds that the most dangerous among them is Ashiai because he crushes every foe he meets on the battlefield, which is why people call him the natural-born slayer. He then tells her that since Takeyasu has died, Nagayuki's threat levels cut in half. However, Shiryu is a pacifist who stops by negotiating, and her purpose of coming here might also be to stop the war. He then tells her about Toshiko's excellent command over her guns, after which he asks Niwatori to share details, but she says that she doesn't know much about anybody. She says that she feels like she's seen Nezumi somewhere before, but she can't remember where. Datsuku stays silent and thinks that he also had a similar feeling about Nezumi. Just then, a bird comes and sits on Niwatori's shoulder, so she tells Datsuku that Usagi's team has split into 2. Meanwhile, Ashiai observes Toshiko from a distance and thinks that if someone among them can do this to others, then he must take care of them. On the other hand, Yuma thinks that the most dangerous among them all is Ashiai, but he was the one who raised his hand in response to Shiryu's proposal. He says to himself that Usagi messed up everything, but perhaps they can still work together. Niwatori tells Datsuku that she has lost sight of Usagi's gang because he noticed her birds. Datsuku thinks that Usagi planned all this to lure them out, but he is not going to stay behind since there's nobody crazier than himself. He suddenly bites Niwatori's arm, and she starts getting strange sensations, so he reveals that he injected a drug into her called One-Man Army. He explains that this drug will soon unlock the full potential of her combat abilities. In his mind, he says that he will temporarily increase her powers and make her fight with Toshiko to lure out Usagi and Takeyasu, after which he will wipe them out. He tells Niwatori to calm down and try to control it, so she closes in and kills him in an instant. Meanwhile, Yuma spots Ashiai coming towards him, so he waves at him, but he rushes towards him and attacks with his sword. Meanwhile, Niwatori recalls her past where she found herself in a room full of mess and pulp spread everywhere. She had an egg topper in her hand and warm red liquid under her feet. At that time, she couldn't recognize the faces of the dead bodies lying on the floor, but she is pretty sure that the dead bodies belonged to her parents. Afterward, Niwatori was taken to a hospital where a lot of tests and experiments were done on her. Doctors said that she doesn't remember anything, including the pain she suffered at her parents' hands from a very young age. One day, the Niwa family decided to adopt her because the doctors told them that she can talk to all kinds of birds, and she can see with their eyes as well. After this, the Niwa family taught all kinds of killing techniques because they were involved in various conflicts around the world. While working with the Niwa family, Niwatori became a heartless girl with no emotions and master of betrayal. At present, Niwatori takes the jewel out of the Dotsuku and says that nobody can hide anything from her special eyes. She then tests her strength on a pipe and expresses her gratitude to the Dotsuku for helping her and promises that after winning the war, she will ask the management to make his statue. Niwatori then tracks down Toshiko, who senses her presence and start firing like crazy. However, Niwatori quickly changes her position and makes all her birds attack Toshiko at once. As the birds close in, Toshiko starts firing and takes down a lot of them. But the number of birds eventually surpassed that of the bullets she could fire at once, so as a result the birds finally take her down and feast on her flesh before leaving. In the meantime, Ushiai gives Yuma a hard time by swinging his sword like a pro, but Yuma keeps blocking his attacks with his wrist guards. On the contrary, Niwatori goes to a mart to buy something for her when suddenly she gets startled by Nezumi, who says that he hasn't come to fight her, and the only thing he needs are some snacks. After introducing himself, Nezumi says that he remembers that Niwatori raised her hand when Sharyu proposed the idea of peace, to which she agrees, so he asks her to follow him because he is going to take her to Sharyu. Inside the sewer, Niwatori thinks if she should kill him, but then he remembers that her birds won't be able to get in there. Soon they reach Sharyu, so Nezumi tells her that he found her, so he brought her. After this, he says that he is tired, so he immediately falls asleep. Sharyu then introduces herself and says that she is glad that she is able to meet someone who raised her hand, and she wants to meet other people who also raised their hand. Sharyu then turns around to make tea for themselves, so Niwatori thinks that she should take this chance to kill both of them. But before she could act, Sharyu asks her about the situation in the city, so she reveals that a few have been killed, including Teikyasu, Toshiko, and Dotsuku. Niwatori then tells her about Yuzagi and her scary ability of creating zombies. Sharyu presents her with some tea when Niwatori asks her if she can still execute her plan of winning, so she replies that she still can do it, but she can't share the details yet. Sharyu then starts checking the things Nezumi brought while Niwatori plans to stab the Sharyu, but noticing his rationality and sincerity, she decides to give up the idea, and afterward, she tells Sharyu that due to some personal reason she won't be able to join them, so Sharyu tells her that she can go back, but whenever she feels like returning, she knows where she is staying. Afterward, Niwatori regrets that she didn't eliminate them when she had a chance. She thinks that she had overcome all emotions, but maybe Dotsuku's one-man army drug messed up with his brain. As she walks on the road while blaming herself for showing kindness, she sees Ushiai standing on the other side of road. Ushiai walks toward Niwatori when Niwatori suddenly notices that he has already fought someone, and if the rumors were true, he might have killed his opponent. She asks Ushiai why he raised his hand when Sharyu proposed the idea of becoming a team, so Ushiai replies that the moment they are dispersed, the peace proposal became void for him. Niwatori thinks that facing off the strongest warrior is not a good idea. Ushiai says that the way Niwatori is acting shows that Sharyu is nearby. Upon hearing this, Niwatori unintentionally takes her fighting stance, which makes Ushiai wonder that Niwatori wants to protect Sharyu. However, Niwatori is confused why she is acting this way when suddenly Ushiai rushes towards her and pierces her head with a single attack, after which he collects 2 jewels from her and leaves. As Niwatori takes her final breaths, she thanks the birds for always helping her and tells them that they must be hungry after all the hard work, so she asks them to eat her flesh, and the birds quickly cover her as if they were waiting for her orders. In a flashback, Sharyu cuts down a large rock with a single karate chop, so her masters appreciate her, saying that she has already reached the level where she can easily transform anything between its physical states. They add that there's nothing left to teach her, so she should go into the world and use her strength as per her liking, because she is the only one who is going to decide how she will wield this immense power. However, Sharyu stays humble and says that she will always use her powers for the benefit of all things and for all people. She promises that she will eradicate the unjustifiable killing from this world no matter what it takes. Back in the sewer, Nezumi says that Niwatori's probably dead by now, so Sharyu asks him why he is saying such thing. She asks if this is a special talent of him or he is a psychic, but Nezumi replies that she might have heard that rats flee before a ship sinks. He says that his instincts tell him that someone is going to die, but if Niwatori dies, Sharyu is going to be responsible for it. She asks why he thinks so. He replies that Niwatori must have some talent due to which she was selected for the Zodiac War. However, he explains that when Shariyu kept talking to her, she kept growing weaker and weaker because Sharyu's boundless optimism disarmed her, and eventually Sharyu's genuineness proved to be deadly for her. He then says that if Nuatori is really dead, it means that 4 warriors are down, so does she really think that her plan of peace is still going to work? Shariyu says that it's true that there are now less people to save, but she has more than one plan in her mind. She adds that it seems to her that Nezumi doesn't really want to stop the war, so he replies that he hates peace because when he is not at the battlefield, he has to go to his boring high school which is full of trash people. He then asks Shariyu if she never feels tired by trying to save people. He admires that no one in the world has saved more people than him, but this also means that she saved a lot of garbage as well. Shariyu tells him that once she was having a meeting with 2 officials of different countries who were going through a war to claim a disputed land between them. None of them were ready to step back, but their people were dying because of them. She somehow managed to convince the armies of both countries to cease fire, and she felt like she had conquered everything. However, the rebels from both countries joined hands and killed so many innocents that made her question herself if what she did was right or not. Shariyu says that she still carries that burden, but Nezumi tells her that if she had used her power to stop the war, it would have been much better for all. He adds that all participants of this Zodiac War are monsters with immense strength, which means that the world would be a better place if they aren't alive, so why does she still want to stop this war? Shariyu says that there were so many lives that she tried to save but she failed, so she is doing all this to make up for that. She adds that she has seen so many people dying in front of her eyes, but this will not stop her from doing what she has to do. In another flashback, as Shariyu prepares batter for baking, her boyfriend approaches her and asks if she needs any help, but she says that it means more if she does it by herself. Afterward, when they eat dinner, her boyfriend says that he respects what she is doing for others, but he doesn't know her as some badass warrior. He sees her as her current self, as the one who makes pastries for him, and he loves her for this, so he wants to protect this life they have together. Shariyu says that she feels that same way and she wants to protect this life too, which is why she goes out and fights wrongdoers. She tells her that once the work is finished, she will come back for him. Her boyfriend says that the house feels so empty without her, but she replies that she wants him to be strong for her, and after dinner, she leaves once again. At present, she remembers what Nuatori told her about Uzagi and his creepy powers, but suddenly she kicks Nezumi and tells him to get up and shows him a strange bird. Nezumi says that it looks like a dead bird, causing Shariyu to remember that this is Uzagi's ability. They quickly pack up and start running to find cover, but more and more birds keep flying towards them, so they get out of the sewer where Shariyu is welcomed by Takeyasu. With this, Uzagi also appears on the scene and introduces himself. Shariyu asks Nezumi if he can take care of the snake, which surprises him, so she says that wanting peace doesn't mean that she won't defend herself. She adds that she will restrain them and talk to them peacefully, but Uzagi says that it is going to take more effort than just simply killing them. However, Nezumi agrees to fight alongside Shariyu while Uzagi laughs like a maniac, thinking that he is going to have 2 more personal zombies in his collection. Meanwhile, the richest people from various countries remotely watch the Zodiac War in a meeting room. Duodkupul informs them that this war is organized to resolve territorial disputes among the countries because their representatives are the participants in this war, and the winner will get control of the world. When half of the 12 fighters are gone, the formal betting will begin. He then shows them the current performance of the remaining warriors, where Ashiai is leading with 3 jewels, Uzagi and Nagayuki have 2 jewels each, and others have 1 jewel in their bodies. The faceless riches say that Ashiai can take down everyone all by himself. Uzagi has his own team of undead, and Shariyu is teamed up with Nezumi. But Sharyu's pacifism is a big disadvantage for her and Uzagi. One of them say that they are forgetting Hitsujai, who won the Zodiac War 3 decades ago, because it's impossible that he participated without any plan in his mind. Duodkupul tells them all to get ready because after 3 more participants are down, the betting will officially start, and the result of this war is going to redraw the map of the world. On the other hand, Hitsujai thinks that Ashiai, Uzagi, and Shariyu can be called the leaders because out of 12 people, some are usually more talented. He thinks that he would be dead by a single blow from them, so he must avoid direct conflict with them and manipulate the situation in a way that these 3 crush each other. Back in the battlefield, Nezumi goes after Takeyasu, which leaves Shariyu and Uzagi behind facing each other. Shariyu says that Uzagi raised his hand when she came up with the idea of peace, but Uzagi suddenly runs towards her and starts attacking her like a maniac. Meanwhile, Yuma tries to find a shelter since he got injured during his fight with Ashiai. Hitsujai, on the other hand, thinks that he won the Zodiac War in the past, but if someone were to rank all the participants in the current war, he would not be able to secure a position even in the top 10. He sees a flashback of himself where he tells a story to his grandson, but he doesn't sleep, so he decides to tell him his own story. Hitsujai used to be a weapons merchant when he was young, He presented his weapons to a customer, but they threatened him and told him to leave the weapons and run away. However, Hitsujai used explosives to take them all down, after which he went to another customer and gave away all the weapons to him just to build a good customer relation with him. This job forced him to become a master of weapons and explosives, which ultimately turned him into an experienced warrior. Since he always focuses on building good customer relationships, one of his customers accepted him as their son-in-law. Afterward, he participated in the Zodiac War and managed to win, resulting in him getting one wish granted. His wish was to live a simple and happy life with his family and his beloved grandson. Hearing such a boring story, Hitsujai's grandson falls asleep. A few years later, he enjoyed his life with his grandson and did all sorts of cool stuff that made him happy. However, one day he received a letter from Juni Taisen, so he decided that he will fight in his grandson's place. Back in the city, Nezumi keeps dodging Takeyasu's attacks while Shariyu tries to convince Usagi to calm down and listen to her. Usagi keeps attacking her, so she says that if he is fighting to get his wish granted, then she can help him to reach his goal. Usagi suddenly stops attacking, prompting Shariyu to ask what his wish is. At that moment, the flock of zombie birds comes out of the manhole and attacks Shariyu. Meanwhile, Hitsujai tries to formulate some strategy to gain advantage over other participants and recalls that when Duokupal told everyone to swallow only one jewel, he focused on the color and cut of it. This helped him to understand that the jewel is dangerous, so he hid it in his beard instead of swallowing it. Meanwhile, Yuma blames himself for thinking that he would be able to dominate the Zodiac War by working with Ushiai. In a flashback, Ushiai keeps swinging his sword at Yuma, but he keeps blocking it until he loses his stamina. Ushiai apologizes and says that given the current state of battle, the time for teamwork has passed already. He then appreciates him for staying alive against him and jumps towards him to finish him off, but Yuma steps forward and makes his way for escaping. In the meantime, Hitsujai ranks Toshiko as the 4th best fighter, Yuma as 5th, Dotsuku as 6th, Nagayuki as 7th, Takeyasu as 8th, Niwatori as 9th. Meanwhile, Ushiai happens to enter a mall when suddenly Hitsujai hears 2 blasts and thinks that his tiny devices won't be enough to take down Ushiai, but it will still help him to distract Ushiai. Contrarily, Shariyu decides to take down the birds with her karate chop while Usagi watches her like a psycho. Hitsujai thinks that he will convince Toshiko, Dotsuku, and Yuma that his special ability is to pass objects through anything by showing them his jewel. He then brings out his ultimate weapon and says that he could easily wipe out all of them if someone hadn't blown up the floor. On the contrary, Nezumi hides in an office, but Takeyasu follows him there as well. Nezumi wonders how Sank is able to see without his head when he suddenly realizes that he is not looking at anything. So he moves his foot and Takeyasu once again starts attacking, prompting Nezumi to flee once again. Meanwhile, Usagi once again starts attacking Money, and Hitsujai also goes out to meet some mid-rank fighter when suddenly sees that Tora is sleeping on a bench. Just then Tora wakes up and starts drinking like she has nothing to do with this whole Zodiac War. Hitsujai takes a grenade out of his stinky bag when suddenly Tora tells him to come out because she can hear him loud and clear. Hitsujai thinks that Nezumi and Tora are weaker than him, so he finally comes out and says that he thought he wouldn't be involved in any conflict until the end, but he can play a little with her. However, Tora gets up and takes her combat stance, leaving him surprised. Contrarily, Nezumi keeps running from Takeyasu, but despite being headless, he keeps giving him a hard time. Ushiai finally arrives in the building where Hitsujai was hiding when suddenly the explosives are triggered. Ushiai escapes and thinks that Hitsujai must have set up all these traps because he sensed his arrival. He then follows the small clues with the aim of tracking down Hitsujai, since he believes that Hitsujai can't have gone too far from there. On the other hand, Hitsujai mocks Tora for her stupid stance, but then flatters her to manipulate her. He thinks that he was worried for no reason because now he's confirmed that Tora is the weakest of all. Due to high intake of liquors, Tora gets confused to see that Hitsujai can use Shadow Clone Jutsu, and Hitsujai thinks that this battle is going to be easier than he ever thought. Yuma hides himself and thinks that he can go out to fight weaker warriors, but in the end, he is going to get killed by Ushiai, so he decides that he will keep on hiding. On the contrary, Nezumi comes back to where Shariyu and Usagi are fighting, but he mistakenly moves, causing Takeyasu to sense him, so he starts attacking him once again. Usagi doesn't say anything and keeps attacking Shariyu, who thinks that Usagi went straight for her stomach, which means that he only sees her as a vessel that contains the jewel. She kicks his hand, that causes him to drop one of his blades, so he picks it up and starts running. Shariyu decides to follow him, but suddenly Usagi attacks her, prompting her to dodge. She thinks that Usagi's unorganized moments and the way he is swinging his blade are evidence that he is not a martial artist, so she can easily subdue him by getting behind him. However, as she manages to get behind him, Usagi thrusts his blades into her like a master, leaving her in a state of shock. At that moment, Shariyu notices that he was using Takeyasu's head all this time to look behind him. As Shariyu loses consciousness, Usagi says that the moment he saw her, he wanted to become friends with her, so now he is going to turn her into his friend. Back in the park, Hitsujai tells Tora that he can wait until Tora is back to her senses, but Tora feels annoyed and says that she isn't drunk at all. Hitsujai thinks that he can take her down while she is drunk, so he formally introduces himself in response, to which Tora also introduces herself and kills him with the speed of light. As Hitsujai's jewel falls on the ground, he wonders how a weakling managed to take down a genius like him, so Tora tells him that she used the famous martial arts style, the Drunken Fist. With this, Hitsujai falls on the ground and his ultimate weapon joins him there. Duokupal informs the VIPs that they are finally down to 6 warriors in the Zodiac War, after which he shows the ranking of the remaining 6 fighters, where Tora has got 3rd place. The VIPs start betting on their favorites while Yuma has isolated himself after his fight with Ushiai. He thinks that if he keeps hiding there, the poison will eventually kill him. He then sees a flashback of himself as a soldier who is out on a mission with his team when suddenly his comrades start dying by attacks from the shadows. One bullet injures his arm, but he stops the bleeding and starts killing the enemies one by one. Just then, a taller man arrives at the scene, so he stabs him in the ribs. However, the taller man turns out to be a robot who immediately engages in a close combat with him. Yuma gives a hard time to the robot, but the robot manages to push towards the edge of the cliff, where he pierces his arm, resulting in him falling off the cliff. After recovering from some serious injuries, Yuma completely changes his body with intense training. He tries every experimental treatment to achieve his impenetrable defense technique. At present, Yuma feels his body changing at cellular level, which makes him wonder if his body will be able to fight against the poison as well. He thinks that even though he is not going to win if he doesn't take other warriors' jewel, he can still save himself if he keeps his armor up, which is no less than winning. Out of nowhere, he hears someone telling him that it's quite dark there. Yuma turns around and sees Nezumi sitting there, which makes him wonder how he managed to get inside his secret place. Nezumi says that rats can always find way inside their desired place by slipping through cracks. They both formally introduce themselves, and Nezumi says that he was searching for a place to hide and take a break from Takeyasu's trail, which is why he came inside. Yuma keeps watching him with confusion, so Nezumi tells him that Sharyu's plan of alliance died along her. Yuma finds it hard to believe that a skilled fighter like Sharyu has died already. He thinks that this must be Ushiai's doing, when suddenly Nezumi says that Yuma is going to meet the same fate as Sharyu, since he is looking more lifeless than Yuzaga's zombies. He then says that since Takeyasu is going to come there soon, Yuma should also get out of there, after which he leaves. Yuma gets depressed, thinking that he has nowhere to go because Ushiai is still alive. Suddenly, Yuma starts breathing heavily, so he gets up and sees Takeyasu burning everything around him. Due to the low oxygen level, he starts coughing and tries to break the wall behind him but fails. Meanwhile, Sharyu takes her final breaths while Yuzagi tells her that it's the best feeling to have friends who always watch your back, just like Takeyasu's head. He comforts her, saying that he is only taking her life in exchange for relieving her of the burden she's been feeling all this time. He says that he will turn her into a friend, after which he takes the jewel out of her body and notices that his other friend Takeyasu has also caught a fish. Yuzagi then tells Sharyu to get up, and they both leave to meet Takeyasu. In a flashback, Nagayuki and Takeyasu arrive at the designated building where Zodiac War is about to start. Nagayuki says that it doesn't look like any of the warriors have arrived yet, so Takeyasu replies that they should take the time to set up an ambush and take down all fighters one by one. Nagayuki says that it's not going to be easy, so they go inside the building, where Takeyasu says that he can take down all on his own. But Nagayuki says that if they work together, they will win for sure. Before this, Nagayuki and Takeyasu were partners in crime, and they always used to steal the most valuable things in the city, but one day, the head of their family announced that the siblings are chosen as the next Takeyasu and Nagayuki warriors for the Zodiac War. However, the duo gets upset, thinking that in order to win the Zodiac War, one brother will have to kill the other. Back in the building, the duo finally makes it to the upper floor, where Yuzagi welcomes them with 2 glasses of wine in his hands. They formally introduce themselves to each other when suddenly Yuzagi drops the glass and asks Takeyasu to become his friend. He asks him to let him see his flamethrower when suddenly Takeyasu feels someone's presence. Just as he is about to tell Nagayuki about it, Yuzagi cuts off his head, leaving Nagayuki in a state of shock. At that moment, Ushiai also appears in the hall, saying that it's interesting to see a dead body before the war officially started. At present, all fighters notice the fire in the city, but Sharyu and Yuzagi become the first to reach inside the building, where she finds Yuma's body. She takes the jewel out of his stomach and drags her out for Yuzagi, who says that he wanted his Yuma to be cooked well. Meanwhile, Tora crosses paths with Takeyasu and asks him did he forget to put back his head. She starts mocking him for getting killed before the match started, and suddenly feels confused, wondering how he is standing in front of her. Takeyasu starts throwing flames at her, prompting her to dodge and tell him that it's not a circus where he is making her jump here and there. In the meantime, Ushiai finds Yuma's body, so he tries to find the jewel inside him but finds nothing. On the other hand, Tora challenges Takeyasu to fight like a man and formally introduces herself. Tora once again takes her fighting stance and cuts down his arm in an instant, followed by stealing his fuel tank. She starts drinking out of it, saying that he must have filled some sort of alcohol in it. Takeyasu takes his fighting stance to face Tora, but she says that she has no interest in fighting some zombie and she only fights with real humans. With this, Tora leaves while Takeyasu keeps standing there, remembering that Usagi told him to kill Nezumi, and those who will try to stop him from doing it. He decides to retreat, but just as he turns around, he sees Ushiai coming towards him. Ushiai introduces himself, prompting Takeyasu to take his fighting stance, but suddenly, Ushiai cuts down his other arm as well, resulting in him falling on the ground. Ushiai tells Takeyasu that he doesn't belong to Usagi anymore, and from now on, he is going to be Takeyasu's master. Tora senses Ushiai's presence and heads back to the scene where Ushiai tells her to wait until he finishes the business with Takeyasu. But Tora doesn't listen to him and takes her combat stance. Ushiai thinks that he should finish off Tora since Takeyasu's boy is not going to go anywhere. Just when Tora starts to introduce herself, Takeyasu's arms start strangling her and Ushiai's neck. Ushiai thinks that Takeyasu's body is using its full power that can lead its muscles to break, but if it keeps going on he will die before it happens. He notices that alcohol coming out of Tora's mouth, so he asks her if she can still hear him, in response to which Tora asks what he wants from her. He says that he needs her help to get out of Takeyasu's grip, and if she helps him, he will fight with her according to her rules. Tora doesn't agree, so Ushiai tells her that he will not step back on his words, and he will abide by her rules because he is the one who is challenging her. Tora finally agrees and asks what she has to do, prompting Ushiai to tell her to keep foaming alcohol like she is already doing. He then throws his swords towards her that ignites a sparkle, resulting in putting Tora on fire. Meanwhile, Nagayuki watches the scene from a distance and says that Usagi is using his brother better than he could even imagine. Nagayuki sees a flashback of him in the Court of Warriors where the prosecutor tells the judge that Nagayuki and Takeyasu have repeatedly defied standard warrior norms, specifically in the recent incident. He says that both brothers joined one side of the conflict, which led to reckless violence that resulted in a huge number of innocent casualties. The prosecutor adds that this affected the dignity of all 12 houses of warriors and the trust of international community. The judge orders to start the questioning, but he notices that only Nagayuki is present in the court. Nagayuki says that Takeyasu has some serious recurring illness due to which he couldn't appear in court. He apologizes to the judge and assures him that he will answer on Takeyasu's behalf as well. The prosecutor takes the court to a flashback of 1 year ago where Nagayuki is hired by the chief of a pharmaceutical company to enforce the cessation of their deal with the director of the orphanage, since they no longer need more human subjects to test their drugs. The company's chief explains to him that they are testing new drugs on humans, due to which he will often see strange side effects in them. He then takes Nagayuki to his general care facility where Nagayuki sees an elder brother asking the doctor if his younger brother will ever recover from his condition. The doctor replies that he is sure that his younger brother will get better, but due to the complexity of his illness it will take a while. Chief explains to Nagayuki that the kid is having a side effect of drugs that caused him to get blind temporarily. Just then a man comes to the chief and informs him that his visitors have arrived. Outside the building, the director of the orphanage comes out of his car telling Takeyasu to wait for him, after which he meets the chief of the pharmaceutical company. Takeyasu asks Nagayuki why both parties hired warriors like them for a simple exchange. So Nagayuki explains that neither of their employers trust each other. He adds that Takeyasu's employer supplies orphans to the chief of pharmaceuticals as lab rats. Now that the pharmaceutical company has finally completed their new drug, they don't need the kids anymore, so they want to terminate their relationship with the director of the orphanage. However, the supplier wants to continue receiving payment from the pharmaceutical company. Back in the meeting room, the director tells the chief that if their exchanges are made public, the chief is going to suffer most. With this, the director leaves the office, and Nagayuki tells Takeyasu that tomorrow, the final exchange is going to take place, so they will make their final move. The following day, the director gets furious to know that this is the final exchange from the chief of pharmaceuticals. They both call their hired warriors and get shocked to see that they are twins. The siblings start attacking the opposite sides with their weapons, resulting in the leaders of both sides running away for their lives. However, the leaders end up in the same elevator, but when they get out of the lift, the power goes out and they get cornered by Nagayuki and Takeyasu. The employers enter the vault to lock themselves, but the siblings manage to get inside as well. The employers offer the brothers to give them as much money as they want, but they don't accept their offer and burn them along the whole building, after which they take everything and leave. Back in the courtroom, the prosecutor says that Takeyasu and Nagayuki burned everything and stole the money after killing their clients. But Nagayuki says that he killed Takeyasu's client and Takeyasu killed his. The prosecutor says that they should have executed separate missions, but Nagayuki replies that it wouldn't have changed the outcome. The judge says that he received a file from the twins' family that proves that they are not just murderers. The brothers once stole treasures hoarded by a dictatorship and distributed it among the poor. After this, they stole money from an underground casino and handed it to the residents of a shelter for kids. The judge adds that in the recent incident when the siblings found out about the kid who lost his vision, they gave them a great deal of money from the exchange. Back in the flashback, an official tells the brothers that they are ordered to remove the traces of drug testing on humans, so Nagayuki asks him how much will be paid to them. The official tells Takeyasu to check the case behind them, and upon checking it, they quickly agree to take the job. Meanwhile, the younger brother finally gets his vision back when suddenly black smoke starts entering in the room. They head out of the room to take a look and get shocked to see fire everywhere. The elder brother leads the way as they try to get out of the building, but suddenly the roof collapses, resulting in the big brother getting trapped under the debris. The younger brother tries to free him, but he tells him to go without him since there's no time to waste. He pushes the younger brother when suddenly the building collapses and the big brother dies. At present, Nagayuki thinks that Takeyasu is helping him to take down Tora and Ushiai when suddenly Ushiai throws his sword towards Tora, which sets her on fire. The fire starts spreading around her neck and causes Takeyasu's grip to be loosened, so Tora throws her jacket towards Ushiai, who then wraps it around his neck. Ushiai manages to break free and thinks that fire is the only way to win against Uzaga's zombies, because Yuma also died by getting burned to death, which is why Uzagi couldn't turn him into a zombie. Just then Tora starts shouting at Ushiai for using such a rough move, but he picks up his sword and tells her that first they need to take down their mutual enemy. Meanwhile, Nagayuki thinks that Ushiai and Tora can easily save themselves from Takeyasu because his only mission is to take down Nezumi, which means that if they stop fighting, Takeyasu won't bother fighting them. However, he then thinks that his foolish little brother is helping him to win the fight, so now he will make his move. Nagayuki starts floating in the air when Sharyu throws Snake's head towards the sky to have a good view of the whole city. At that moment, Uzagi approaches Sharyu, who helps him to go to the exact place where Nagayuki is. Meanwhile, Nagayuki seizes the moment to launch his ultimate attack when suddenly Takeyasu's head falls into his hands, and before he could notice, Uzagi also appears in front of him and cuts him into half. With this, Nagayuki falls on the ground and Ushiai says that now it's 2 against 4. The scene takes Tora to her past, where she is the most energetic girl in the world. She goes to her family's dojo where her father trains more than 100 students. She gets dressed up and starts fighting like a pro, resulting in taking down 100 students without taking a break. Afterward, her father appreciates her for her extraordinary performance. He says that there is no one left at the dojo who can beat her, and her critics are also silent after witnessing her power. Her father asks her that what is Bu and what is Michai. She replies that Bu is the power that they practice and refine, while Michai is the righteous execution of Bu. Her father then asks if she can continue to pursue Michai, to which she responds positively. He explains that the fighters of their family must appear on battlefields as warriors. He adds that there are certain things that can be only learned in real combat, so she will have to go and learn them. Tora gets excited and says that she will perform great deeds with her power. However, when she goes to the real battlefield, she questions herself that how something so unreasonable can be a part of Michai. She watches her comrades dying in front of her and eventually loses her calm, so she takes down all enemies, but in the end, she feels like she has lost her spark. She starts getting medals and recognition by the government, but in order to get herself back, she goes to a bar where she drinks too much and later thinks that if she keeps drinking alcohol, she won't have to worry about anything at all. While trying to maintain her balance, she falls on the street and starts crawling like a beast. Afterward, she starts using the same stance in the battlefields to achieve inhuman speed and kill her enemies before they can notice her. After killing countless enemies, Tora becomes an alcoholic with unmatched skills. She keeps killing until she gets free time for another round of booze. She gets more medals, but one day, her father slaps her upon finding out that she has become full-time alcoholic. Tora says that keeping her head empty makes everything easy for her, but her father says that she has turned into a raging beast. With this, her father leaves while telling her not to come back to the dojo. Afterward, she starts drinking more and keeps killing her enemies in a more brutal manner. She stops fighting alongside any team and turns into one-man army who doesn't know when to stop. At present, Ushiai says that if Uzagi brings all his zombies against them, then their remaining time in the Zodiac War is very limited. He adds that they must act promptly before Uzaga's forces assemble at one place. He then tells Tora to use any special powers she has, but she replies that she only has the Drunken Fist because she didn't come for the Zodiac War with any idea that she will have to fight with zombies. Ushiai then talks about Nagayuki's tank, which is still tied to his torso, but Tora says that she has no idea what's inside it. Ushiai says that Takeyasu's backpack had fire inside it, which means that Nagayuki is carrying something like ice, and to be more specific, it looks like he has liquid nitrogen inside it. Suddenly, Nagayuki's torso throws Takeyasu's head at Ushiai, but he kicks it and throws it towards the sky. As Takeyasu's head falls on the ground, Nagayuki and Takeyasu start attacking Ashiai and Tora with great power. In midair, Tora finally understands what Ashiai meant when he told her about Nagayuki's tank. She quickly jumps at Nagayuki's body and manages to steal his tank, after which she jumps even higher and breaks the tank, resulting in showering everyone with liquid nitrogen. Ashiai manages to get out of the way and the liquid nitrogen freezes Takeyasu and Nagayuki, resulting in them getting destroyed eventually. Ashiai says that Tora should have warned him before breaking the tank, but she replies that he should have said it straightforward because she had to use all of her brain to figure out what he meant. Ashiai says that he is ready to fulfill his promise of fighting with her, but they need to keep up their alliance for a little longer. Tora replies that she also knows that Usagi is hiding behind them and she tells him to come out, so Usagi finally shows up and formally introduces himself. Just then, Tora and Ashiai jump at Usagi, who also leaps towards them to take them down. However, the duo cuts him into pieces like he is some third-class loser. Ashiai then asks Tora if she wants to rest before they fight, but she replies that she is not a kid. So Ashiai announces that their alliance has finally ended now and formally challenges her to a duel. In a flashback, Tora walks through a battlefield where her enemies fire at her with sniper rifles, but she dodges it without breaking a sweat. Just as she is about to attack them, Ashiai appears at the scene and starts taking down all enemies one by one. The enemies hiding nearby uses explosives to take him down, but Ashiai moves at supersonic speed and kills all of them. Meanwhile, the sniper team targets Ashiai, but he disappears into dust and obliterates them as well. Afterward, he goes to Tora and asks if she is alright, but Tora doesn't reply and keeps watching him with confusion. Ashiai says that someone must have forced her to drink alcohol, but now that everyone is dead, there's nothing to be worried about. He says that he will take her somewhere safe, while Tora thinks that it seems like Ashiai is mistaking her for a civilian. Tora hesitantly says that she wants to ask a question, so Ashiai allows her, and she asks how he is able to do the right things without hesitation, fear, and mistakes. Ashiai says that he has never given it serious consideration, and he asks Tora if she wants to do the right thing as well. Upon getting a positive response to his question, he gets up and says that first, he tries to do the right thing and then he does the right thing, and that's all. He says that one can never do the right thing without a right intent, which means that no one can do the right thing unless he tries to do it intentionally. He adds that there is no need to force herself to do the right thing, but she must not forget that it isn't because she can't, but because she has chosen not to. Afterward, he gives a piggyback ride to Tora, who continuously thinks that perhaps Ashiai didn't take her question seriously because he thinks that she is a child. If all of this were this easy, she wouldn't have suffered like this. However, Tora feels that they both are warriors, but the difference between them is like an adult and a child. Later, Ashiai drops her at a shelter and turns around to leave, but Tora asks him to stay for a while since she is not feeling well. However, Ashiai replies that he has to save more children like her, so he can't stay. He then leaves, so Tora thinks that only people like him truly have the right to be called warriors, so she feels like she has a goal for the first time in her life. She vows to become someone Ashiai would acknowledge the next time they meet. Afterward, Tora starts everything from scratch, and she decides to re-examine things she had stopped thinking about. She starts her training once again, and one day, she happens to find that the warrior she met is the warrior of the Ashiai. She begins going to countless battlefields in order to find him, but fails every time. Just when she is about to give up on ever seeing him again, one day an old friend and her sparring partner meets her outside a convenience store. She informs Tora about the Zodiac War and asks her to come back, but Tora starts laughing before realizing that all 12 families will participate in it, which means that Ashiai will also come there. Tora goes back to her father and begs him to get him to send her as the representative of Tora family. However, when she went inside the hall, Ashiai had already forgotten about her, which makes her furious. At present, Uzagi's hand suddenly throws his blade to take down Ashiai, but Tora saves him and gets stabbed in his place. As Tora takes her final breaths, Uzagi's body part starts moving once again, but Ashiai steps forward and starts cutting them into small pieces. However, Uzagi doesn't stop moving, so Ashiai takes Tora and escapes immediately. Tora realizes that this is the second time Ashiai is carrying her, while Ashiai says that it is the first time someone saved him, so he won't let her die so easily. As Uzagi's legs keep following them, Ashiai thinks that Uzagi didn't show himself without a plan, and he must have done something before they sliced him apart. Ashiai speculates that Uzagi could have bitten his own tongue to turn him into a zombie so he can control himself. Tora tells Ashiai to drop her down because she is bleeding heavily, so Ashiai takes her under a tree where Tora says that she doesn't have any chance of survival. Tora then asks Ashiai to fulfill her last wish by killing her with his own hands because if she dies due to blood loss, it will mean that Usagi killed her, and she will become a zombie like others. Ashiai understands her point and agrees to fulfill her wish, after which he asks her to respect the tradition and give her name. Tora feels that he doesn't have much power to say anything when suddenly Ashiai asks her what was the grudge she was holding against him because he feels like they have met somewhere on the battlefield. However, Tora doesn't reveal her identity and says that this is the first time they are meeting. With this, Tora formally introduces herself and Ashiai also does the same. Ashiai thinks that finishing off a dying soldier is very common on the battlefield, but why is he feeling so sentimental? He wonders if this is happening to him because she is reminding him of a girl he once met on a battlefield. He thinks that Tora is a great warrior, so he shouldn't disgrace her by treating her like that innocent and naive girl. With this, he finally fishes her off and thinks that to warriors like them, death is also a form of salvation. However, Usagi just wants to keep on fighting even after dying, which shows how insane he is. Ashiai thinks that from the very start, each fighter had something to exploit the rules of the Zodiac War, and for him, meeting Tora was the biggest advantage. Ashiai feels confused, thinking that why Usagi went to the extent of killing himself just to get one wish granted. He wonders if a person can have such a wish they'd die to see granted, so he gets more curious to know about the purpose behind Usagi's actions. However, he knows that he will never know Usagi's purpose, so she vows to burn Usagi into ash. He thinks that he must find a gas station to get his hands on flammable material, or he can collect it from cars in the city. Just then he sees the scarier version of Usagi walking towards him, and he thinks that Usagi has finally turned into a monster by joining parts of various corpses. He wonders if cutting him into small pieces will do any good, but then he thinks that he doesn't have much time to waste, so he will have to dice him up once again. As they both engage in close combat, Ashiai thinks that he must prepare gasoline before Usagi reforms again. He clearly understands that aiming for his heart or brain means nothing now, so he starts cutting his limbs when suddenly Sharyu comes out of Usagi's body and subdues him in an instant. Ashiai feels responsible for not being able to predict the possibility of such a thing happening to him. He thinks that Sharyu can crush his arms and legs within a second, but since she isn't doing this, it means that Usagi doesn't want him to get killed by Sharyu. Ashiai starts cursing himself, thinking that Usagi will kill him with his own hands to turn him into a zombie, after which he will lose control of his body and become a slave forever. He remembers Tora and thinks that he won't be able to do the right thing, so the only option he has is to kill himself before Usagi does. He tries to bite his tongue when suddenly Sharyu slams her head into his mouth, resulting in his teeth breaking, which makes him even uglier. At that moment, Ashiai sees Nezumi walking towards him, and he wonders why he came out of his hiding. He thinks that Nezumi won't be able to kill Usagi or Sharyu, which means that he simply lost his way. Nezumi says that it took him longer than expected to find Hitsujai's body, prompting Ashiai to inquire why was he looking for that old fart's body. Nezumi replies that he needed his ultimate weapon, and suddenly everything becomes clear to Ashiai that he was waiting for this exact moment so he could kill everyone with a single blast. Usagi tries to reassemble himself while Sharyu keeps holding Ashiai, so Nezumi activates the bomb and puts it near them, after which he walks away. With this, the bomb finally explodes and kills everyone nearby. Afterward, Duo Kupal congratulates Nezumi for winning the Zodiac War. He informs him that the antidote should be in full effect by now, so he should take rest now. Nezumi asks him if he can go home, so Duo Kupal tells him that he needs to have a brief interview with him in order to know how he managed to win this war. He says that it's just a formality, so it won't take long, but he can still go if he wants to. Nezumi says that he'll pass, and he enters the elevator to leave, but suddenly the cable breaks and he dies. Nezumi opens his eyes and sees Duo Kupal sitting in front of him asking for the interview. This time Nezumi says no by shaking his head and leaves by using stairs, but someone pushes him from behind and he falls, resulting in ending up dead. Once again, he finds himself sitting on the couch, so he gets up without saying a thing and manages to get out of the building when suddenly a girder falls on his head and he dies. Nezumi gets stuck in the same loop, and he keeps using all possible ways of getting out of the city, but every time he ends up dying. In the reality, Nezumi thinks that he tried 100 ways of refusing, but they all failed because he ended up dying 40 times. However, this is still better than getting killed 99 times out of 100 during Zodiac War. After the last loop, he finally asks Duo Kupal what he wants to know. This time he locks the loop and Duo Kupal asks him to share what actions did he took to win the war. Nezumi creates two possibilities, but where he tries to attack Duo Kupal, he ends up dying, so he locks the outcome and responds that he didn't do anything unusual. He finally reveals that he tried 100 strategies at once using his special ability. There was one scenario out of 100 where he was able to survive, so he followed that strategy. Duo Kupal finally understands how Nezumi managed to dominate, but Nezumi tells him that it isn't as easy as it sounds. Duo Kupal then asks him that who won the other 99 times, so Nezumi tells him that he can't say anything because he died partway. Finally, the sun starts rising, so Duodouple tells Nezumi that he can go for now, and when he decides which wish he wants to be granted, he can contact him anytime. A few days later, Nezumi goes back to his school where everyone starts disgusting him. He wishes them to disappear but then realizes that he can't waste his one and only wish on these fools. He goes to his seat and tries to sleep when a girl approaches him and asks if he has nothing to do except sleep in the class. Nezumi wishes her skirt to flip up but then realizes that this is not something to waste his wish on. Nezumi asks her if she could have one wish granted in the whole world. What would it be? So the girl gives it a thought and says that she would ask to let everyone be happy because it will help people grant their wishes too. Nezumi thinks that this way the worst people in the world will also become happy. For example, if Uzaga's wish were to be granted, he would have surely turned the world into zombies. However, Nezumi feels that granting the wish of someone nice is like a good idea. Later, he thinks that he didn't really win because he thought that it was the right thing to do. Winning was his only way to survive, which is why he chose to take the 100th path. Nezumi remembers what Shiryu told her in the sewer, so she thinks that maybe he should wish to bring Shiryu back to life. However, he then asks himself if it is right to bring someone back just because they are righteous. Apart from this, he asks himself if Shiryu would accept that she was brought back to life because she was righteous. He then thinks that he should bring all the fighters of the Zodiac War back to life, but he thinks that maybe some of them don't want to come back. He then thinks that he is not the right person to decide who gets to live and who dies. Later that night, he thinks that maybe he should wish for good health and eternal life because this is what Hitsujai wanted. However, he then thinks that he will eventually get bored of this world and eternal life won't let him even die with peace. Nezumi suddenly remembers that along his 100 paths he asked everyone about their wish, but he doesn't know if they were speaking the truth. He starts seeing flashbacks of himself where Nuatori says that if she wins, she will wish for confidence in her life. Yuma says that he would wish for talent because he is more afraid of losing than dying. Toshiko says that she would wish for the harem of 3 billion boys who are always ready to die for her. The following day, he goes to his school where his classmates start ridiculing him once again. He then ponders that maybe he should increase the limit of experiencing 100 outcomes to 1,000 outcomes of a single situation. However, he realizes that he had to experience the pain and trauma of dying in 100 different ways. He then recalls that in middle school he had a crush on his school's third most popular girl, so he tried all 100 paths, but couldn't manage to make her fall for him because she was obsessed with some other boy. With this, he decides not to wish for 1,000 paths and starts seeing the flashback where he continues to ask other fighters about their wishes. Datsuku tells him that he teaches in a preschool, but one day a kid ended up getting sold to a pervert, so he got her back from his client. However, the little girl didn't have anywhere to go, so he took her and now his only wish is to take care of her. Nagayuki and Takeyasu say that all they want is money. Usagi says that he wants everyone in the world to be his friend. Tora says that she wants to see Ashiai once again. The more Nezumi thinks about a wish to choose, the more he keeps drowning into his loops. Later that night, as he is sitting in an alley while being stuck in his loops, Duodouple approaches him and asks if he has decided what he wants. He tells him that he can wish for getting 100 more wishes. Nezumi suddenly stands up and starts crying, after which he tells Duodouple that his wish is to forget that he had any wish to be granted. Duodouple accepts his wish, saying that this is a beautiful wish that came out from bottom of his heart. With this, Nezumi returns to his boring school life without any memories about any wish he had. With this, the story of the world's greatest war reaches its end, but every ending is the beginning of something new. So if you want to watch more interesting videos, then don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel.